everybody, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeFries, and this is The Daily Show, where we bring you the latest from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is your editor-in-chief for AMC Movie News, John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show, my last one until the Super Bowl happens, so go team!
Also here is AMC's Christian Harloff.
How's it going? Real quick, for everybody who's asking me if I'm going to eat my shoe because of Fantastic Four, I said if the sequel comes out on that proposed date that it came out, that was what? Go back and watch the video.
No, I'm pretty sure you said there will never be a trailer ever. I think you said that.
No, watch the video. Someone sent it to me. And I said, if that date of the proposed trailer comes out, that's when I do it.
Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But anyways.
And also here, I'll break it up, boys, is AMC's production manager, Dennis Sen.
Hey guys, yeah, also, I will be on tomorrow's show, so it's not my last show before the Super Bowl. But we're trying to plan our Super Bowl festivities.
We were just before the camera started rolling, and I want to start a trending hashtag Christian Eats Shoe.
I know.
If you can start that hashtag, that'd be wonderful. Hey guys, guess what? Every once in a while, at the end of every show, we like to save a few minutes to take your questions live on the Twitter stream. But every once in a while, we got so many news topics going that we have to bypass that part of the show. So every once in a while, we like to take an entire episode and do nothing but take your live questions. So for those of you who are watching us live, you can start tweeting us right now at AMC Movie News, because this entire show today is just going to be run by you and the topics and the questions you want us to address. So with all that being said, Sinead is our most upright gatekeeper today. She will be the one deciding what gets asked on air, so you might want to butter her up a little bit. So Sinead, what are we starting with today?
All right, the first question comes from Destry Bell. He says, hey guys, recently started watching your show and I'm a big fan. My question is, do you have a favorite reboot or remake of all time?
My favorite reboot or remake of all time is The Departed, and which is really weird because the original of that is an Asian cop film, which is actually my favorite cop film of all time. It's called Infernal Affairs. And there's a couple of them. And The Departed is a very faithful remake of that. And you'd think because I love the original so much that would lessen my enjoyment of the remake. But I love The Departed. I didn't like it more than Infernal Affairs. But I thought it was a really great film. Was super stoked to see Scorsese win Best Director for that. So mine will be The Departed. Christian, what about you?
Willy Wonka. Kidding.
What's so funny before you go any further? I am notorious and very unpopular for the fact that I am not a big Tim Burton fan. I actually think Tim Burton is rather overrated, and I got a lot of friends that really, really love him. But one of the films of his that I actually liked was his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film. I know, I'm totally in the minority on that.
That movie, when I went to see it for the first, I was going in like all grumpy, going, this is a travesty. And then the first 10 minutes, I'm like, whoa, this could actually be pretty good. And then Johnny Depp hits the scene as Michael Jackson, and I'm like, no, I'm done. But I actually was going to go with The Departed as well, too, for what they did with Infernal Affairs and then transferring it over into a great Scorsese film, one of Scorsese's best, I think, too. So I'm going to cop out and say that one as well, too, because it is my favorite.
Dennis?
Well, I don't know my favorite off the top of my head, but one I think of is 3:10 to Yuma. The James Mangold version with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. I thought that one was done very, very well.
And there's a couple of other really good ones that come to mind. Like John Carpenter's The Thing is actually a remake itself. Yeah. Like, I'm not talking about the one that came after John Carpenter. I think John Carpenter's The Thing is a remake. The Fly was a great one. Scarface. There's some really great remakes in history too. So I bet if we sat down and really thought about it for a while, we can come up with a whole bunch. Anyway, what's next?
This one comes from @Pras I probably just butchered that. I'm sorry. He says, do you guys see indefinite end to the MCU?
No, I think right now, look, here's the thing we keep getting asked a lot is like, how much longer can the comic book movie genre go? How much longer can it go? Nothing lasts forever. Everything in films ebbs and flows. There are going to be trends. Right now, though, there is no end in sight. And Marvel is planning accordingly. They have I believe the number is now, I talked to Kevin Feige, I think they have 73 films planned. Yes, 73 films planned. I'm joking, by the way. But there is no end in sight. I mean, they've got a huge roadmap ahead. They're going to keep plowing this thing ahead until the time comes that's going to end it. Now, will they definitively end it? I doubt it. I think the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe is ultimately going to end is they're going to hit 2 or 3 films in a row that bomb, and then they're just going to stop. I don't think they're going to plan the epic finale to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think they're going to do that. Although if they had that type of foresight and that type of vision, we're planning then like a 5-year break to reboot, that would be impressive. But I don't think that's what's happening at this point. Dennis, what do you think?
I think maybe at some point they'll decide to reboot the universe and do kind of what they're doing with the comic books right now with the Secret Wars, where they're just gonna be like, all right, let's just decide to start over and mix stuff up. I would like to see like we're talking about like alternate universe type of stuff like Old Man Logan. I would love to see that type of stuff. I know Marvel doesn't own that right now, but maybe in the future they will.
For now, I agree. I don't think there's any plan. Why would you? If everything's going well and they have a clear-cut goal, we know that we're going to get to the end of phase 3 with the Avengers, and we'll see where that goes. I think we'll probably spin off into some new Avengers after that, and if the fans respond to that, keep building on that. Unless the thing is, right now they have their stars. They have the Iron Mans and the Thors, and that right now those are their main. If you look at the star athletes on the team, those are the guys who are running the team right now. If we again respond to these new characters, and they don't have to say we need Iron Man back, we need Thor. They very well could say that eventually. Reboot it.
They're going to have that in their back pocket.
They can reboot it then if that's not working. If they bring it, whether it be Ant-Man or whoever it is, and Captain Marvel and all these people later on down the line, and we're not responding to them, then they might reboot it.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say with what you were saying, I think a lot of people aren't thinking about in the future how superhero or comic book movies may wane or probably will, just like the westerns did, and at some point. But people right now are so big on them, they're like, no, it's never gonna end. It's never gonna end. It's like, well, it's not gonna end. But
they said that about MySpace at some point too.
But the difference between say like westerns and what they've been able to do, and why I think Marvel has been successful, is because Marvel, even though it's a comic book movie, they're still changing the genres. If you look at like Captain America was a spy thriller, and you have the space opera. So even though it's comic book movie per se, it's still the subgenre is the science fiction or the spy thriller. So they can make that last, because westerns, it's just westerns. That's all you can do with it. Or even spy thrillers, it's just spy thrillers. Within the comic book movie, you can change the genre, and that's why it's been so successful.
One of the things that's going to be really interesting to see is the way a lot of people phrase the question is, aren't people going to get tired of comic book movies? 2016 will tell us that. Because 2016, if Sony gets a movie out, which they still say they're doing at this point, who knows? But if Sony does get one comic book movie out, 2016 is going to have 8 comic book films in 1 year. That will tell us. By the end of 2016, we are going to get a real good gauge if people will get tired. I still think they will not at that point. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in 2016.
Yeah, but by 2020, you don't know. Like,
it
might
true.
be, because on the flip side of the whole, we think it's all great because of the shared universe, because as fans, we like that type of stuff. But remember, the casual fan doesn't necessarily watch every single movie. You know, like my friends that are not huge into movies, they'll watch Guardians of the Galaxy because they heard it was good once or whatever. But then once you start getting to those storylines that you kind of had to see the previous movies, that's when people start getting lost.
And one of the brilliant things about Guardians of the Galaxy, this is going off a bit of a rabbit trail though, is the fact that it is a part of the cinematic universe, right? But in many ways, Guardians of the Galaxy was a completely isolated film. You didn't need to know nothing about Thanos. Right. You didn't need to know nothing. As far as if you were coming in fresh to Guardians of the Galaxy, having never seen a Marvel cinematic film before, everything made sense. Like you didn't have to know the Thanos was around in the Avengers. You didn't have to. It all felt like it was a self-contained story, which was a pretty bright thing for them to do. All right, what do we got next?
Wyatt wants to know what you guys think about the new Ted 2 trailer. He thought it was really funny.
You know what's funny? I saw this Ted 2 trailer almost 2 months ago. A leaked version of this trailer got out, except the visual effects on Ted weren't done. So in some of the shots, in 1 or 2 of the shots, you see the fully animated Ted, but in a bunch of the shots, it's this gray, blocky digital thing that's in place of where Ted is supposed to be standing, and then in some other place, just this wireframe. What are you talking about? Like doing all this kind of stuff, right? So I saw this morning that the actual completed version of the trailer came out. I thought it was really funny, actually. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I have high hopes, but because I love the first Ted so much, but A Million Ways to Die in the West, that was just a misstep. So I didn't know what to expect from Ted 2. And look, the movie might suck, whatever, but I thought the trailer was really funny. It had me giggling a number of times. Dennis, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm the opposite of you. I wasn't
Really?
very impressed. Yeah, I didn't laugh very much. There's a few chuckle moments, and I'll probably say something to get people mad that are fans of Seth MacFarlane, but with A Million Ways to Die in the West and seeing this trailer, I have a feeling that it's a possibility his career could go the way of the Farrelly brothers. There's just some of the jokes that are just, a little too, like they're crude, but then they're not universally funny. Like I saw in that trailer, the beginning part with the whole sperm donor thing. I just didn't find it funny.
See, I thought that was the funniest part. So Mark Wahlberg falls down, he's covered in sperm donations and takes a picture. I'm posting this with the hashtag Mondays. Grr. I thought that was really funny, but apparently I'm not in the popular opinion.
Well, I'm with Dennis in the fact that this trailer didn't really do it for me, but I'm gonna save anything until I see the Red Band trailer because
that's true too.
Because that's when I saw the Red Band trailer for Ted, the first one. That's when I started. I went, whoa, this is a foul-mouthed bear, and that's what he does so well, and it really worked, and you got the full gist of the entire movie out of it. So the story that Ted's trying to, get legalized as an actual human being, whatever. It doesn't need to be the
So there's
the
obviously
best
a paradigm here with civil rights and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
If you want to think that he's capable of going into deep themes.
And let's see how he handles it. And that's fine. And the relationship between him and Wahlberg, and I love seeing Sam Jones as Flash Gordon was marrying him. That stuff's cool. So this trailer was okay for me, but I'm going to wait for the Red Band before I say it's going to stink or it's going to be good.
All right, what's next?
Der Berghund asks, any new developments in a possible Guillermo del Toro Justice League Dark movie?
Yeah, this is one of the things that keeps floating around. Okay, so Guillermo del Toro, for those of you who don't know, he came out maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago and mentioned he's got a real desire to do a Justice League Dark, which is traditionally like Constantine, Zatanna, Swamp Thing, I think is part of it. So it's this different collection of them, right? And he went off and he wrote a script, and he even did a bunch of art for it. And so a lot of people then just assume, that means there's a Justice League Dark movie coming. No, it doesn't. Guillermo del Toro is, not only is he a brilliant filmmaker, he's insanely, prolific. He's got like 15, 20 different things going at any given time. And it feels like every week, that doesn't have a week go by without us mentioning, Guillermo del Toro is reportedly working on this, or working on that, or working on that. So no studio has greenlit this thing. Nobody's accepted this thing. So there has been no new word about it, except that from when he said he was working on a Justice League Dark script to now, he's also announced Pacific Rim 2 is happening, folks. It's got a release date. So that has got to be tying up all of his time. I wouldn't hold, personally, look, it could still happen. It could. I don't want to say it's not, but I wouldn't hold my breath about a Justice League Dark film. Christian, have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard anything, and it would be if he's the guy that I'd like to see do it though, for sure, especially those characters.
If you're going to make that movie, he's the guy to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I think with everything that he's got going on, and Dennis, I know that you're going to want him to focus on Pacific Rim 2 before he focuses on this. So yeah, don't count it out, but we're also going to see. Now, I'm curious, would that fit into the DC universe? Or?
Well, that's a big question. And that came up before. Is if they do Justice League Dark, does it stand on its own, or is it integrated into the DC Cinematic Universe? And that is a question that also came up when The Rock was starting to talk about the new Shazam movie, because he was starting to talk about it in terms that made it sound like it wasn't going to be part of the DC Cinematic Universe. I still haven't heard a definitive answer on that. I think it would be fascinating if Shazam was a standalone film. I think if they did a Justice League Dark film, I would really like to see it as a standalone film in its own universe. But I have no clear indication about which way they would go. Dennis, have you heard anything?
I don't think it would be. I haven't heard any news about the movie, but I don't think they'd do a standalone because it's called Justice League Dark.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
You have Justice League is going to come out and they're going to use that name. It confuse people.
Totally.
It's a little harder sell to get a budget for a bunch of things. They'd have to go kind of how Marvel did with Guardians of the Galaxy, built up a bunch of trust with their brand. And then be like, okay, here's this movie of a bunch of guys you've never heard of, we've heard of them, but the general public hasn't.
Then again, they've got Suicide Squad coming, right?
That's true.
So they're pouring every A-lister in there that they can.
Well, that's the thing that I know you and I have differed as far as when it comes to the DC universe on television and movies being both canon. I just think that you get really confusing if you do movies that are not part of the universe because, like you said, not every fan who's checking all of the movie space and could be confused. Oh, is that going to tie into that Justice League, or is that going to tie in the Superman film if it's a DC film? And it's that's a totally different conversation. But I just think that as far as films go, I think everything should tie in. But that's just me.
All right, what's next?
Brian Miller asks, would a Transformers reboot confuse audiences within the next 5 years?
Nah, I think there would be some confusion on the day a rebooted Transformers is announced. But between that point and when the marketing campaign for the actual film starts, I think everybody will know what's going on. And let's call spade a spade. Transformers is not about its deep, interconnected narrative that runs Shakespearean-like throughout the film series. It really won't matter one way or the other. Do you guys see it any other way?
No, because you're right. The story doesn't. Who cares about the story in the Transformers, the past 4 films? I can't tell you the story from any of them, So why would it confuse people? Because people are not going to see Transformers for the story.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree with you guys, and I think in 4 or 5 years you'll be okay with it. And a lot of fans, especially after the 4th one, will probably be calling for a reboot anyway. It's one rare franchise, like let's see somebody else do it. I want to see them kind of eventually lead into the 1987 Transformers movies. The cartoon was one of my favorite of all time. Eventually leading into that storyline of a brand new franchise, I think could be incredible, but I want to see how they originally got there, the way that they did in the cartoon, not the silly Michael Bay way.
Yeah, I've been calling for a reboot since after the second one. So.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Chris Snyder says, since John and Christian are both on the show today, is there a Star Wars quote that would describe all of your lives perfectly?
Stay on target. Stay on target.
I won't go into why. I'll let you think whatever you will. Now let's blow this thing and go home. I won't go into anything deeper than that. Dennis?
No, I can't think of one on the top of my head.
Yeah.
What about you, Sinead? Oh, you know what? You're too young. You weren't even watching that at the time. But do you have a favorite Star Wars quote, Sinead?
I don't think so. I literally probably watched Star Wars for the first time like 6 months ago.
Well, at least tell me you've heard of Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes, I love
Awesome.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Perfect. Good. All right.
We used to get to read those during like nap time at school.
Just don't tell me you started with episode 1.
All right. What's next?
It's hilarious. Callum Benson asks, why was Watchmen so badly received? In my opinion, it's amazing.
No, Watchmen, look, I don't think Watchmen was all that badly received. It is very divided. I think you're going to get a lot of people out there. I know there's at least one person at this table who really, really appreciated Watchmen. I think there's a lot of people out there that do. But Watchmen seems to be one of those love it or hate it movies. I don't find a lot of neutral feeling on it. I think I'm one of the few people, I did not love it, but I did not hate it. I just wasn't all that impressed by it. But I know a lot of people who hate the film, but a lot of people who say, no, it's genius in a lot of ways, which is, sometimes the hallmark of a really creative filmmaker. Or just a halfly done good film. I mean, I don't know. It's one or the other. It depends on where you fall. But Dennis, I know you really have an appreciation for Watchmen.
Yeah, I really like it. It's obviously not as good as the comic book, which is my favorite comic book of all time. But it did a lot of things right, especially if you watch like the director's cut where they have additional scenes in there. I appreciate it. I think the problem was not that it was so badly received. It was that the way they marketed it, and this is coming out during the whole Dark Knight era. Mm-hmm. People thought it was going to be like that. They're like, oh, it's going to be just like the Nolan Batman films. And when they saw something that was different, and it wasn't like super action oriented, and then it was also, it's a weird story. It's a strange story.
Weird. It is weird, yeah.
I thought, I love that story, but I think that's what happens. There was a backlash because people were expecting something different.
I love the Watchmen comic book. I'm actually with you. I'm neutral on it. I thought what Zack Snyder did and what he always does well, and we always hear about him, is how great he is visually. That movie looks like the graphic novel. Shots, everything. He did that.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. He did his research. He was a fan, and you could tell from every single shot, every character's design, everything. He did that movie right by the look. For me, the main thing for me was the casting. I thought Matthew Good at the very end, who I really like in The Imitation Game, he won me over. He won me back. I thought he was terrible as the main. I don't want to ruin. Oh, it's been years. The main villain at the. So it just didn't deliver in the way story-wise the way it did when I was reading the graphic novel. It just popped out at me, and I couldn't put it down, and I was reading the next page. I was more into the visual than I was the story.
And Schnepp would be another guy who really appreciates that film. I think Schnepp actually really loves The Watchmen. He sees more genius in it and stuff like that. All right, what's next?
Donald Holmes wants to know if you've heard anything about Seventh Son. It's coming out and there's no buzz.
Oh, wow. Seventh Son is like you're watching NASCAR because you know there's going to be a big crash. And it's like I'm kind of, look, when you've got who is probably going to win Best Actress at the Academy Awards this year. You've got Julianne Moore in this. Awesome. You've got The Dude. You got Jeff Bridges in there. And there's a couple of the supporting cast are also really, really, really up there. Something doesn't smell right. And I think people have been smelling that for a long time. I have not seen the film yet. But I am looking, look, anything that's fantasy, you got me. I'm going to be there because you're singing my song now. So I'm going to be there and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But I got to tell you, my expectations are real low because... Yeah, it just doesn't smell good. What are you guys thinking?
My expectations are pretty low, but you know what I saw is I was looking at that list of Super Bowl movie trailers that are going to play or commercials that are going to play, and I noticed Seventh Son was on that list, and I was like, well, you might as well just throw your money down the toilet. Like, you're not going to get anyone to go see that movie.
Unless the trailer happens to, I agree with you, but unless the trailer is so out of control, they put together a great one that you can maybe trick people. I don't know, but like for me, I'm with you. Is anything fantasy related? I'm rooting for. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that it's not a Lord of the Rings. It's not a movie that a lot of people have heard of. So you want a new type of franchise to do well. I'm hoping that we're all wrong. My expectations are low as well. I love everyone. I even like Ben Barnes. I thought Ben Barnes was the lead.
Yeah.
I think he can be something as well too. And I just hope it's good, but I agree. There's not a lot of buzz on it. No one's really seen it yet. I'm going to see it next week, and my fingers are crossed because I would love to see a new fantasy franchise, and I don't think this is.
You are the seventh son of the seventh son. Find a condom. Okay, sorry. What's next?
Andrew Hayer Curtis says, what's your most anticipated trailer debuting during the Super Bowl?
Well, you know, it's weird because we were just talking about this morning. Like, up until like 48 hours ago, there was one TV spot that was confirmed for the Super Bowl, and that was Jurassic World. And then, like, as this morning, there's like 15. I don't know. I mean, remember, these are all going to be 30-second spot things because they're paying $4.5 million for one 30-second spot. You're not going to see a minute and a half trailer at Super Bowl, I do not believe. So what would I most be looking forward to? I know it's online right now, but I have not watched it yet, which is I'm very curious to see the Terminator Genesis one. You were just watching before the show started. I haven't seen it yet, but I guess I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I think they're going to be longer. I remember
You
them.
think so?
Yeah, I think remember them being even when they debuted the Avengers a couple years ago. It was a longer trailer, and that's why like even the Transformers one last year was a little longer. For me, it's Tomorrowland. I want to see more of Tomorrowland.
You changed my mind.
Yeah,
Yep.
Tomorrowland is the one. I think you're going to get like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of that one.
Really, you think they're going to put like $10 million
I think you're going to
into
get
one spot?
for that movie.
Right.
It's not like Disney doesn't have it.
Well,
So for that movie, I think you're going to get about a minute and a half, and I can't wait. That movie is on my like top 4 or 5 of the year to see, so I want to see more of it.
Yes?
Probably Jurassic World, just because, with that trailer that did come out, I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either, so I'm looking forward to seeing some more. And yeah, with Tomorrowland, I think that might be a good fit for the Super Bowl because it is something Disney's behind it. Tomorrowland has a name because of the theme park, and I think it has the potential to make a lot of money. That's why I think Seventh Son is a waste of money. You might as well take that $4.5 million and stick it back into whatever you're going to lose on the film.
Now, I'll say this about Seventh, because I've been very harsh on Seventh Son, a movie I haven't even seen yet, all right? Until I saw the first trailer, I also thought John Wick was going to be awful and a big waste of time. So here's hoping, and that movie's awesome, like 7 shades of awesome. So here's hoping that Seventh Son is going to be the next John Wick.
Yes.
I'm holding out hope. Okay, what's next?
Brian McDonald wants to know if you guys have heard that Fincher and Ben Affleck might be remaking Strangers on a Train.
You know what? It's funny because I actually heard something about that. I don't know how credible. Honestly, I don't know if that came from the Hollywood Reporter. I don't know if that came from some random chat board on Reddit. I don't know where it came from. fascinating. And I think, once again, it says a lot about Ben Affleck and where he is right now, considering, Fincher's wanting to go back to this guy again and again. But I don't know anything about the validity of it or the lack of validity of it. I just don't. Have you guys heard anything?
I heard about it floating around too, and I actually, again, don't quote me on it, but I think I heard it from a pretty reputable source as well too. But going back on that point of how Affleck has changed a lot, not only with Fincher and his reputation, but he's always been a fan of like remaking or revisiting these classic films. But his choice in who he's going to do it with has changed dramatically. Because, we're talking Fincher now. He wanted to do Casablanca with J-Lo at one point. So let's thank that he's going in that direction. I'd be up for it. I think with Fincher and Affleck, those are the two guys. You put that team together, and let's see it.
I haven't heard anything, but weren't there like rumors, or maybe it was just fan opinion about having Fincher direct the Batman movie, the solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck, because they work together. I think Ben Affleck was underappreciated in Gone Girl. I think a lot of people overlooked his role. I think obviously Rosamund Pike was the star of that movie, but I think Ben Affleck was integral into making that movie work.
All right, what's next?
Mighty_Tim wants to know, how long should a movie be out before it is considered a classic? 20 years? 30?
Yeah, we talked about this. I remember a question like this kind of came up about 3 or 4 months ago, where somebody's like, how much time do you need to give a film after you see it to really think you have settled on what you really think about it? Because, you see a movie for the first time, and then you go, man, I love that. Then maybe a week later, I'm thinking about it more, and I liked it, but not so much. And then maybe a week later, it's like, no, I talked to some friends of mine, points, now I like it a lot. And I said, I think you got to give it about 5 or 6 months. Separate yourself from a film for about 5 or 6 months before I think you really settle on what your longer-term view of that film is. I think it's closer when determining a film's classic status. Part of that classic status to me is its longevity and its legs. And I'm not talking about box office legs, that's a short-term thing. But like you talk right now about Shawshank Redemption, everybody will still tell you Shawshank Redemption is it. So I'm going to say 15 years. I'm going to put 15 years on it. That's just me. What would you guys say?
I'd say 10 years, but then I also throw in the caveat of not just longevity for a specific person, but I think culturally, like a movie that resonates through that length of time to a lot of different people. Because there are movies that are maybe big or successful or maybe a personal, I don't know, like for me, like I would go, man, I love Birdman. It's probably gonna be in my top films of all time, but I don't know if maybe it's a classic to me, but to most people who won't have seen it, But like I think of a movie like we talk about like Big, that's a classic to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
I'd say 10 years also, and I think the same reason like Dennis said it's hard to judge. Like for Birdman, people are loving it too. It's very possible that in 10 years it'll still be on Dennis's list. But also what we have to realize now is because there's so much, everyone's talking about it. Oscars haven't even happened yet. So there's so much word on it. Everyone's talking about it. It's fresh in your brain. You can have a conversation about it left and right. But yeah, it's a movie, how it stands out longevity through conversations, through when it's on TV and you have to stop and watch a scene or you have to watch the whole thing and you revisit it and it just holds up. I think 10 years is fair.
All right, let's take one more question.
All right, real quick, Groundhog Decon34 says, #Christian eats shoe.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's really trending on here, you guys. And then this one comes from Connor Brown. He says, if Jurassic World is financially and critically successful, do you think that Creature Features could make a huge comeback?
I didn't catch the name of the movie. Jurassic World?
Jurassic World.
Well, it's hard to say. Look, the traditional way of thinking would say, yes, if Jurassic World, a big monster dinosaur movie, is a big hit, that means a lot more it'll be in vogue and more studios start cranking out the big monster movies. But then I always throw back to this one cautionary tale, was Lord of the Rings. A lot of people thought when the original Lord of the Rings films was coming out, they thought, if Lord of the Rings is a big hit, the sword and sorcery genre is going to make a big resurgence. But what actually happened was, the fact that it was such a hit and such an Academy Award-winning behemoth, it actually worked in the opposite. A lot of studios were then hesitant to put out their stuff because they thought, our movie is now just going to look like a poor man's Lord of the Rings. So it almost kind of like shut the door on the genre. Is Jurassic World going to be so monumentally epic and generation-spanning greatness that it's going to shut down the monster genre? I doubt it. But will it be good enough to open the doors to more big monster movies? I'm going to say yes. I'm just going to go out on a wild limb and say yes. Christian, what would you say?
I think Universal needs to hit with the the monster movies, the Wolfman, all that stuff that they're trying to do, that shared universe, that's where the creatures and stuff have to really shine. Jurassic Park's, it's a franchise. It's a franchise that people are going to want to see. It has nothing to do with necessarily just the dinosaurs. It's because we're going back to this park that we went to in '93 and loved, and we want to get back to that. So you can't really count your chips on the creature feature there because it's a franchise. Now, and the other thing is that as far as the point of the studios and everyone chasing it, even that thing you got on your head there with Star Wars, it's I was just reading that how Star Wars conquered the universe, and what they said, as soon as Star Wars hit the first time and nobody wanted to do sci-fi fantasy, then everybody was chasing you. At every knockoff here and there, things bombed left and right because they didn't put in the time and effort to just get the genre. And there's a reason the initial ones made so much money because of the craft that was involved.
Yeah, Dennis?
I don't think it will, not because I don't think it's going to be good, but because I think Jurassic World and that franchise is separate from the whole creature monster thing. I mean, it's kind of more like sci-fi-ish, you know, Spielberg did the first one, as opposed to, I think, Godzilla or King Kong, those type of things are closer to that.
Right.
Good point. All right, folks. Well, that will do it for this episode of AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and of course, your movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video and you will find a link to our podcast feed. And don't forget, click the thumbs up button, share this video on your Facebook or your Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want to thank, first of all, the guys sitting at the table with me, sitting right over here, Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you online?
At Christian Harloff on Twitter and at Christian Harloff on Instagram.
Sitting beside him, our production manager of AMC Movie News, and cleverly disguising his bottle of malt liquor here at the production table, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on Instagram, dennis.tzng.
Or on the street corner.
Yes. I'm going to bring a paper bag in next time.
And our lovely host today, the gatekeeper, Miss Sinead DeFries. Sinead, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Sinead DeFries and at thatsosinead.com.
And you can find me on Facebook or on Twitter, just at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campea. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.